What's your brain? Let's take a peek. A little weird, a little chic. Not just thinking it's a show, predicting life as you go. Lollydabbing through this life with Richard and Keri, brains in flight. It builds your world, it makes things new. Turns out you shape meaning too. Brains aren't born to just react. They build your world, that's a fact. No command center, no set fate, just wiring up what seems great. Lollydabbing through this life with Keri and Richard, thoughts ignite, laughs and wonder, every hue. We're here to share it all with you. So hit play and join the fun. Your brain's been working since day one. From silly to deep, it's quite a view. Lollydabbing through with you.
Check. The pandemonium is just for you, Robbie. You're welcome. You should be able to hear me now. Can you hear me now? How about now? Can you hear me now? Yay! Anyway, happy St. Patty's Day. I guess we should have probably planned a little bit better because Richard forgot. I'm waiting for him to show up. Hi, Melted Copper. How's it going? Hi, Camellia. Well, you guys are all here. Richard's going to be a little bit late because he was having corned beef and cabbage or something. Anyway, so here we are. Has anybody had a chance to look out some of the links that I stuck in the description, or is anybody eating corned beef and cabbage while they listen to this? I agree. A day that isn't winter is a great day. Though it was kind of like corn snowing this morning, which is like tiny hail. So that's kind of winter-ish. Anyway, so you guys can hear me. Richard is on his way. Has anybody watched any of the interviews or anything I stuck in that description? If not, it's fine. We'll catch you up. But a big hello to Robbie, who is here first. And then we've got Melted Copper and Camellia all in the chat. Thanks for showing up, guys. This is definitely easier when I have somebody on camera across from me. Anyway, well, okay. So while we're waiting for Richard, did you guys have any questions, or do you want me just to like jump right in? Because I have all my notes and stuff. Did y'all leave already? Are we that exciting? Am I that exciting? This is a terrible place to stop on a slow descent into a drunken haze. But we're glad you're here. Why are there 3 vectors in an acre? Robbie, that's not that. That's not the show. I have no idea. You tell me. Do you know why there's 3 vectors in an acre? Mike, why are there 3 vectors in an acre? My silent partner over here, we'll call him the producer, says he has no idea either. Should I Google it? I mean, all right. Well, we are doing 7.5 lessons about your brain. Last week we did the half lesson and we did the first lesson. Do you guys want to recap on that, or you want me just to keep charging ahead? Camellia? Your silent partner would talk more if you move the duct tape. Yeah, you know, that helps. It definitely does. Oh. How can a 3-ounce bird carry a 6-ounce coconut? I don't know, Robbie. You got to send me these questions ahead of time if you expect me to answer those ones. I need time to do some research. Now you guys are just being difficult. Here, I'll do a quick recap. Do one-armed people get gloves? 50% off. All right. All right. Is everybody on a slow descent into St. Patty's Day drunkenness? I mean, I wouldn't blame you. I would be too if I decided to. If I could. If I could, I would. But I'm not gonna. So the half lesson was your brain is not for thinking. The key idea is our brain's primary job is managing our bodies, not thinking. So that was the first thing we talked about. Cheers, Melted Copper. And then we talked about how you have one brain, not 3, which means a lot of people, especially in pop psychology or self-help, they talk about having a reptilian brain, which is like your basic survival instincts brain, and then your limbic system, which is dedicated to emotions, and your neocortex, which is your rational thinking. Lisa Feldman Barrett kind of debunks this and says we have way more imaging and way more ways to study and prove that that is not correct. Current neuroscience has disproven this. It has not evolved in layers, but as interconnected, adaptable system. So the brain is a single network, not separate parts. And we're going to kind of go into that a little bit deeper today by talking about lesson 3, that little brains wire themselves to the world. And the key idea behind this lesson is, Richard is here. I can add him to the stage just in the nick of time. Neocortex, that's a mad scientist that fights Crash Bandicoot. Are we talking about the PlayStation? Yes, Melted Copper. We absolutely are.
I was just making sure that I looked good for you today.
Have you been hitting the Guinness, doing some Irish
No,
car
I
bombs,
didn't hit no
or-
Guinness today, but I've been cooking corned beef all afternoon, so
Oh.
just got done eating.
Did you get a chance to read the chat because they're out of control?
Yep,
Usually
I
I'm the
can't.
one way
How
off
do
the
I
rails.
look at the chat?
but-
Oh, there's the chat. Hi, chat. Hey, Robbie,
Um,
Camellia,
Yep,
Melted Copper. That's a cool name. I like that.
Yep. Melted Copper says Neocortex is the mad scientist that fights Crash Bandicoot. Yes,
Nice.
Gimli is taking time off Lord of the Rings on the quest. Gimli is actually my co-host. He's usually here most weeks, but he also is up to St. Patty's Day shenanigans.
I wish I'd have remembered my headphones. It'd be a lot easier to hear you.
Probably. It is. It's a lot easier to hear me. Do I need to talk louder? I had some sound issues right at the beginning.
Well, eating the microphone is helping because, it's a condenser mic, so.
Yeah. Well, we'll just turn that up a little bit. I did a quick recap of the first 2 lessons, and I was just about ready to dive into lesson 3, which is little brains wire themselves to the world.
Okay.
And then the key idea in this chapter is brains are not pre-programmed. They develop based on experience. And so our brains are not fully built at birth. I think we touched on this just a little bit. Unlike animals that are born with like instincts, human babies are born unfinished. Most of the brain development happens after birth, which is what makes us unique in the animal kingdom, is that we are the only animal that takes 25 years to become fully developed, whereas like a foal can stand within minutes of being born.
Yeah.
Human babies can't even hold up their heads. So
I'm trying to get to chapters.
Yeah.
I'm using split view for the very first time, so I don't know what's going to happen with my stuff.
Well, you froze a little bit, but I can still hear you.
But I froze in such a contemplative expression on my face.
You did. You're pondering deeply.
Yes, I know it's downloaded. Thank you. No, I don't want to clip it. I want to look at the chapters.
Do you want me? Maybe I can pull it and put it up on the screen. Would that be helpful for you?
Here we go. Manage in library. Now I should be able to look at chapters.
Okay. We good. Are these the brains that zombies eat? I mean, if it's human brains, then yeah, these are all of our brains. This is not just brains that zombies eat. It's brains that anybody could eat. But let's not do that. That sounds
I'm trying to get my camera to work again.
Well, there you go. It's very stoic picture of you.
Maybe it'll work now. Nope. Just fuck off.
Just fuck off.
There. Now it's Lollydabbing. There.
No. Yep.
I don't have to hold the iPad as still either.
I think we did that last time. So thanks for showing us your face. It was good to see. Here. Hopefully there isn't any feedback.
Why did now you make no sound?
How about now? Am I making
now
sound
you
again?
make sound? Yes.
Okay.
Now you make sound.
I have our silent producer, and I thought maybe he would like to actually hear this instead of just hearing one side of me. So I turned on some external speakers. Fashionably late. Yes, you are fashionably late, sir. I just saw that was your... oh, yes. Richard has transitioned to the throbbing orb. So we're just going to...
Yes. Now I am the throbbing orb of StreamChart.
Throbbing orb.
So
let's see. There is a story about in the 1960s, and I don't remember if this is this could be a ChatGPT hallucination, but because I don't remember this in the chapter specifically, but I've read the book so many times I get all the chapters kind of screwed around. So something about in the 1960s, researchers raised kittens in a room with only vertical stripes, and they never saw anything horizontal. When released into the real world, the kittens couldn't see horizontal objects at all, and they walked like straight off
Yeah,
the edges.
I remember that reference too.
Okay. Like I said, I've read it so many times that like, and other books kind of like it. Sometimes it gets jumbled around. This is a example of how a brain builds itself based on the input it receives. Because the kittens never saw horizontal lines, their brains never developed the ability to process them. So there is a human sort of parallel to this. A baby's brain expects input from the world to be able to fine-tune itself. If an infant never hears language, it loses its ability to fully process it later in life. If a child grows up in a stressful or neglectful environment, their brain wires itself for like hypervigilance, making them, well, we all know what hypervigilance is, I think, but it's a type of anxiety where you're constantly kind of scanning. I do believe it also is a thickened brain stem. Like it actually, it's not just about the wiring, but there is actual, when there's more cortisol when you're young or in utero, your brainstem is thickened and it actually changes in its physical presentation too. That may or may not be in the book, but that is definitely something I know. Brains adapt to the world they expect to live in.
Yep.
So a brain isn't just passively shaped by experience, it actively tunes itself to fit the world it grows up in. For example, language development, like we spoke of earlier, babies can all hear speech sounds from any language at birth, but at 10 to 12 months, they lose the ability to distinguish sounds that are not relevant to their native language. Is it an electronic ignition brain or contact points? Well, both and, Robbie. Both and, I think.
Well, I mean,
yes. The answer is yes, Robbie. It's electronic ignition and contact points.
our brains do everything they need to do, even when we don't know they'll do it.
Exactly. Let's see. That's why it's much harder to learn a second language fluently as an adult. The brain pruned away the ability to easily process. It says process, but I'm going to say easily process unfamiliar sounds, because I do think some people are wired to be more adept to picking up languages. And I think that there's different ways that we can kind of trick ourselves to be communicative in other languages.
Yes.
There is an example of cultural differences in perception. So Japanese and American babies process emotions differently based on culture. So Japanese infants focus more on a tone of voice, while American infants focus more on individual words. The brain doesn't develop, this shows that brains don't develop identically. They wire themselves to the social and cultural world that they are exposed to. Processed deli brains. Yeah, I prefer a less processed deli brain. I like to. I definitely like corned beef better than pastrami, because pastrami feels really processed. That's the conversation for. I mean, I guess it fits today, right? It is St. Patty's Day.
It is St. Patty's Day.
After all. I think actually maybe what I will do is I am going to actually pull up her TED Talk, and let's just do a little experiment, Robbie. Let's do an experiment today.
Experimentation. I like it.
Yeah. Let me see if I can't find that TED Talk with her talking, because I think this would be really. And maybe you guys will get excited enough you'll actually watch the links that I stuck in the description.
Yes. They're all in there.
They're all in there. They're all those.
And she did do it immediately following the show last week. Just so you know.
I did. I was so good about it. Let's see here. I think it's in this one. me look at these chapters here real quick.
Good luck with that.
I know. Richard, could you regale us with a little story about your St. Patty's Day while I find this?
Oh yeah, sure. Go ahead. I was just sitting around here doing some stuff, and I got the corned beef in, and it was really, really starting to cook. The only problem was in the pressure cooker, you got to put the steam doohickey in the right spot, and I didn't do that. So I heard a strange noise, and I went into the kitchen, and it was spouting water from the steam vent because I had it in the wrong position, and it was trying to build pressure, but it couldn't build pressure, and that made a huge mess. So then I had to move everything out of the way and clean up the mess. But the corned beef was really good.
Oh, I can't. Oops.
Did I fill enough air? I got more.
That was a great story. That was a great story. Let's see. I was seeing if this one is. All right, this is a great little story. I'll just start it from the beginning here, and we will go from there. Oh, stupid ads. Hold on. All right. So I found it, but... Okay, let me move this and then hit share screen, and we'll be rolling. I wonder if melted copper? No, it's melted copper, not melted pot. Is still here, or if he's like, I'm getting way too drunk for this. Present, and then share screen. And we're going to share this one, and we're going to share it again. And then... oh, I got to add it to the stage.
She's going to do it. Here it is.
I'm going to do it. Here it is. It's coming. It's coming. I just wanted to draw out the suspense a little bit longer. Okay. There we go.
My research lab sits about a mile from where several bombs exploded during the Boston Marathon in 2013. The surviving bomber, Zakhar Tsarnaev of Chechnya, was tried, convicted, and sentenced to death. Now, when a jury has to make the decision between life in prison and the death penalty, they base their decision largely on whether or not the defendant feels remorseful for his actions. Tsarnaev spoke words of apology, but when jurors looked at his face, all they saw was a stone-faced stare. Now, Tsarnaev is guilty. There's no doubt about that. He murdered and maimed innocent people, and I'm not here to debate that. My heart goes out to all the people who suffered. But as a scientist, I have to tell you that jurors do not and cannot detect remorse or any other emotion in anybody ever. Neither can I, and neither can you. And that's because emotions are not what we think they are. They are not universally expressed and recognized. They are not hardwired brain reactions that are uncontrollable.
So this is kind of getting out of the actual chapters, but I think it's really important to hear it right from Lisa Feldman Barrett herself, because the next little point that she goes into here is super interesting about where we sit with excuse me. I got so excited I inhaled what I just drank. She goes into AI and predictive stuff. So pay attention. I'm kind of stopping it and starting. I don't know what YouTube's actually going to let me leave in there for I might have to trim this out. But if I do have to trim this out, please go and click on the links in the description and watch the whole thing.
And check them out.
Yeah.
We have misunderstood the nature of emotion for a very long time. And understanding what emotions really are have important consequences for all of us. I have studied emotions as a scientist for the past 25 years, and in my lab, we have probed human faces by measuring electrical signals that cause your facial muscles to contract to make facial expressions. We have scrutinized the human body in emotion. We have analyzed hundreds of physiology studies involving thousands of test subjects. We've scanned hundreds of brains and examined every brain imaging study on emotion that has been published in the past 20 years. And the results of all of this research is overwhelmingly consistent. It may feel to you like your emotions are hardwired and they just trigger and happen to you, but they don't. You might.
Hi, Allie. I thought I'd pause it again just because this is fun. If you want to watch this video all the way through, feel free to click the link description and watch the whole thing. But I wanted to say hello to Allie Patches. We were just talking a little bit about lesson 3. We were talking about how little brains are wired to the world around them, and then how this kind of segues into what she is talking about now, is that our brain is not pre-wired with emotion circuits, which is in relation to like the cultural difference between Japanese babies and like American babies. We are wired differently based on our cultural and our language experiences. So now, Allie, welcome to the chat. You're all caught up.
And the links are in the description now.
Yep. Oh, I forgot to mention that Richard was late and my sound wasn't working at first. So there you go. Now you know. That's the Cliff Notes. I'm glad you're here, Allie. And if you started reading the book, just let me know in the chat there, and we'll keep rolling on this.
You might believe that your brain is pre-wired with emotion circuits, that you're born with emotion circuits, but you're not. In fact, none of us in this room have emotion circuits in our brain. In fact, no brain on this planet contains emotion circuits. So what are emotions really? Well, strap on your seatbelt, because emotions are guesses. They are guesses that your brain constructs in the moment where billions of brain cells are working together. And you have more control over those guesses than you might imagine that you do.
So, again, this ties into the lessons that we're talking about today, because after this little brains lesson that we're doing, we're going to go into your brain predicts almost everything. So she's tying that in, and she truly is 7.5 lessons about your brain. Oh, we've lost everybody except for Allie, I think. they're all gone. They're like, this is too much.
See ya. This is way too heavy.
Drinking holiday is what this is. But hopefully,
where's my beer?
Oh, yeah, right. Where's my Irish car bomb? The drink, not the thing. Settle down. Anyway, what was I talking about before I realized that we had everybody left? I was talking about how our brains predict and how they wire little brains. So this TED Talk kind of ties in those two lessons. But truly, Lisa Feldman Barrett, she writes a much more extended book about the science of emotions. Oh, good. Robbie's still here. Well, I figured there was one, because it tells me there's one.
It doesn't matter if there's 1 or 10 or 0. I'm still going to do this.
It doesn't. I was just laughing because I was like, well,
right.
I'm also too deep for a drinking holiday. I'm glad you're still here, Robbie. It's good to see you. Oh, is that your dog's barking this time?
That's relaxed. That's Luna. That's their dog. She's announcing that someone is here, or that she saw a cat or a squirrel, or perhaps nothing, or a truck went by.
Right.
Yeah.
All the things. Yeah. We took our dogs for a run. The silent producer on my couch and I took the dogs for a run. So like all 3 of them are kind of snoozy.
Making up for last week.
Yeah, right. All right. So continuing on.
Now, if that sounds preposterous to you or, kind of crazy, I'm right there with you, because frankly, if I hadn't seen the evidence for myself, decades of evidence for myself, I am fairly sure that I wouldn't believe it either. But the bottom line is that emotions are not built into your brain at birth.
Did you pay the Apple Card like I asked?
Oh no, you
Oh, no,
forgot.
giving
Do
Apple
it
Cards.
quick before she looks. Oh wow, that was fast.
Yeah, a while ago.
He did it. That was
So annoying.
wow.
They are just
I know.
built.
They just got double dose of
To see what I mean,
YouTube
have a look at this. Right now, your brain is working like crazy. Your
Okay, are you all looking at that?
Yes,
Richard, can
I
you
am.
see that? Are you have you watched this TED Talk yet?
I have not.
You have not. So this will be fun. This will be fun for you. So you can see that, right?
Right?
You're looking at it, right? You're trying to figure what is that, right?
Exactly.
Trying to figure it out. That's what your brain is. It's trying to make meaning out of it. All right, are you ready? Because this is fun. This is one of my favorite things. Robbie, are you looking at it? Robbie, look at your screen. Okay, here we go.
neurons are firing like mad, trying to make meaning out of this so that you see something other than black and white blobs. Your brain is sifting through a lifetime of experience, making thousands of guesses at the same time, weighing the probabilities, trying to answer the question, what is this most like? Not what is it, but what is this most like in my past experience? And this is all happening in the blink of an eye. Now, if your brain is still struggling to find a good match and you still see black and white blobs, then you are in a state called experiential blindness.
Experiential blindness. You're muted, Keri.
Thank you. I said I love that term, experiential blindness.
Right.
And it could be guitar stripes. It kind of looks something zebra-y to me. What's funny is I've actually watched this and I know what it is. And I still, until she said, I'm still like, I can't find it again. It's really fascinating. All right, here we go.
And
Okay.
I am going to cure you of your blindness. This is my favorite part. Are you ready to be cured? All right, here we go.
Nice.
All right. So now,
Okay, so now like I can see it really clearly. Like she put it into the snake.
Yep.
And then
I
she put it
can
back to
pick
the
it out
blobs,
now.
And now I can pick it out like.
I can't see it in the same detail,
Yeah,
but I can make
no.
out where the snake's head and body
Yep.
is.
Yep. Which is I didn't realize that she had done the full detail and then faded it back to the blobs again, which is why, even though I've seen this before, I was still having experiential blindness because my brain couldn't remember, even though I knew it was going to be a snake.
Yeah, it was
Brain
useless information you did not need to remember.
My brain trimmed it, which
Mhm.
is something that our brains do, especially when we go through puberty.
Yep.
Like during teenage years, you trim so much.
I'd like to,
in your brain.
before you restarted, I'd like to point out Robbie builds guitars. Okay.
Yeah.
And what he saw in that was guitar stripes before he knew what it was.
Absolutely, which makes sense.
I do not find that surprising at all. When I was looking at it, I thought I was seeing perhaps the pattern of a zebra. I
Yeah.
am very much into like wildlife documentaries and Planet Earth and BBC stuff and all that. So it fits into our consciousness the way our brain wants it to. It doesn't matter what it is, nor does it matter what we think it is.
Based on our experience. You know what's really funny now that I'm looking at it again? This part right here. You see where my mouse is going around?
Yeah.
Kind of looks like you. I'm not gonna lie.
Okay.
I mean, look at there's the nose and the hair, and then the beard's coming down all crazy.
I see it.
Do you
I see it.
But
I try to
what we're
brush my
really
hair
saying-
when I come on the screen, though.
that's pre-brush. That's pre-Richard brush hair. But I can definitely like all I can really. I mean, I can if I look at it, I can imagine these different things.
Yeah.
But I can still see that snake that she showed us.
It now becomes one of those pictures in a picture because you've identified it as something else, the part you see as something else, but you also know where to look for what you were told it was. and
right?
shown.
Which makes sense. What are those ink blots that, like, the psychologist? What does that psychologist make? What's the name of those ink blots there? One like looks like a butterfly, or
That's not here. There's no dog
no?
barking here. We're fine. Okay.
Oh, well, I was thinking about ink blots, but yes, there's no dogs barking here either. They're currently trying to lick somebody's face off. I think starting with his ears. Oh yeah, here it goes. Okay. All right, I'm gonna restart this.
Many of you see a snake. And why is that? Because as your brain is sifting through your past experience, there's new knowledge there, the knowledge that came from the photograph. And what's really cool is that that knowledge, which you just acquired moments ago, is changing how you experience these blobs right now. So your brain is constructing the image of a snake where there is no snake. And this kind of a hallucination is what neuroscientists like me call predictions. Predictions are basically the way your brain works. It's business as usual for your brain. Predictions are the basis of every experience that you have. They are the basis of every action that you take. In fact, predictions are what allow you to understand the words that I'm speaking as they come out of my mouth. Exactly.
Lips.
Predictions are primal, right? They help us to make sense of the world in a quick and efficient way. So, your brain does not react to the world. Using past experience, your brain predicts and constructs your experience of the world.
Dum dum dum. Okay, so I'm going to pause that there. Maybe we're going to come back to that a little bit, but before we get into the prediction, because that's actually lesson 4, and we're still kind of working on lesson 3. So let's blow through the rest of lesson 3. I think you guys kind of got the gist of what I was saying about like emotions and how emotions are created differently. Actually, you know what I'll do? Maybe we should pull this up. I'm sorry, my mouse is being glitchy. Let's try this again. Remove that from the stage, and then I will put that little. We'll go back to here. Okay, so we talked about cultural difference and how brains don't develop identically. They wire themselves based on social and cultural world they are exposed to. Barrett likes to highlight the paradox that humans need each other to survive, but can also cause each other the most harm. So the best thing for a human is another human, or ideally a group of humans. Human brains co-regulate each other. That's a little tap back to the idea of body budgeting. And I have this whole theory about like when we're grieving and we suffer loss of a human that has influenced us through a co-regulation, through a social or family sort of connection, they co-regulated for us in a way that maybe is not explicitly obvious to us. So the grief process, or processing your grief, is a way of your brain figuring out through like, doing the use it or lose it and some cognitive dissonance. We're trying to sort of balance our body budgets without that person, which is also why like a famous person could affect somebody, like even if we've never met them in real life, they can still affect you, and you still
You have a
grieve
certain
them. They call that a parasocial relationship with them. And so, but this is not something that Lisa Feldman Barrett touches on. This is like pure Keri conjecture. It's like Keri's conjecture corner.
Well, I'm hoping that everybody will make up their own conjecture. And by make up, I mean apply these discussions and things to your own life in ways that will edify you, make you feel better, or live better, or whatever the case may be.
Right.
Our answers, we haven't said this yet because we're not doctors. We're not telling you how to live. We're not telling you this is the right way or the wrong way. This is just what we've discovered.
Right. And I did come across Lisa Feldman Barrett when I was going through the process of processing grief. And so when I kind of learned about her the science that she's done and the work that she's done, that's when I came to this conjecture that, especially when it comes to this specific sort of section of co-regulation and then the body budgeting thing, I was like, aha, I'd bet that if I was to sit down with Lisa Feldman Barrett and talk to her about grief and what is happening on a neuroscience level with grief, we all grieve, like we all have different grief behaviors, but I was on this underlying quest to figure out what is happening to our brains when we suffer a loss of somebody who has been influential in our lives. And for lack of any other sort of explanation, because you end up with all sorts of like pop, psychology sort of, and there's like the grief steps and like all of these things that was like, okay, but those are also behaviors, not what's happening in my brain. This was the best explanation that I could find is we have our body budget. We are built to co-regulate each other through social connection. And we also experience cognitive dissonance, which is trying to hold on to two disparate beliefs at the same time. And in order to be able to continue to function, we have to trim one of those out and move on. And so that's Keri's, grief. Keri's corner, conjecture corner. Keri's conjecture corner. Yeah.
There you go.
It's the man, I'll have to slice in some sort of title card right there.
It'll be fun.
Yeah. Men who stare at goats. The government actually considered remote viewing as real. I don't actually hate the idea of remote viewing, and that's maybe a discussion for another day. But we'll have to do a para.
Well, that gives me something to go look at now.
It's an excellent movie. Men Who Stare at Goats, and
yeah, I have not ever seen that movie.
It's a great flick. I agree with Melted Copper. Okay, so back to her actual studies and talking about how human brains co-regulate each other. We adjust emotions, stress, and energy levels, again, body budget, through social connection. A hug, a supportive conversation, eye contact with a loved one reduces stress and helps to improve brain function. Babies need responsive caregivers, otherwise their brains literally can't develop properly without human interaction. The worst thing for a human is another human. Humans are also the greatest source of stress, trauma, and suffering for each other. Neglect, abuse, and social rejection can cause long-term changes in brain function. Now, long-term, not permanent. Okay? So I am one to talk, but social isolation is as harmful as 15 cigarettes a day. Good thing I smoke less than 15 cigarettes a day. Our brains are wired to function in groups. Emotional pain activates the same brain regions as physical pain. And I think this is really interesting because there is, his name escapes me currently, but there is a doctor who has done a lot of hormonal science, and he has figured out that traumatic brain injury as well as emotional injury actually messes with the hormone levels in your body, and that, like, instead of medicating with like, what do they call it, MAOI, so medicating with, the psychiatry sort of perspective to help with post-traumatic stress disorder. He's actually using hormone levels in therapeutic ways. So his approach is that, like, if I don't remember the hormones, I'll talk in basic terms. So say if average you have like a level 13 of a certain hormone, well, there's no such thing as a human average. That's a number that's a group of all the different individual numbers, right? So like Richard might need a 10, I might need an 11, he might need a 10 point, finding those individual spaces can actually help things like anxiety, trauma, and that's emotional trauma.
Interesting.
As well as traumatic brain injury. Story about him able to bring a boxer back from being like non-communicative to like being able to have a conversation.
Wow.
Yeah, crazy stuff. I love science. Also, science is relative and subjective, not objective all the time. Anyway, moving on. Emotional pain activates the same brain regions as physical pain, proving that social stress is just as real as physical harm. So, you know that saying, sticks and stones may break my bones, but words will never hurt me?
That's a completely untrue, and I completely disagree with that statement.
That's a lie.
In my experience, and I have been told by victims on victims panels that the physical harm that they were subjected to during an abusive relationship healed and was more easily forgotten than the psychological, the stuff that wasn't physical.
Yes.
So those words and those directions of thoughts definitely can hurt you.
Yeah. And it's almost harder to heal from them because they're a little bit more nebulous, right?
Yep.
There is no 6 to 8 weeks for a broken bone, or you know
Exactly.
what I mean? Like,
exactly.
you break your feelings, and nobody. First of all, if you can realize that they've been broken, sometimes even identifying a broken feeling is hard.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
Broken emotion, and then everybody has a different way of kind of rewiring their brain back to a comfortably functional level.
Mm-hmm.
So there is that. Sticks and stones can break your bones, and words can also hurt you.
Hurt you. 100%.
Yeah. So watch those inner monologues too, right?
Yeah.
So babies are born with billions of neurons, but not all of them survive. As they grow, the brain strengthens the connections that are used frequently and prunes away the ones that aren't needed.
Yep.
Now, aren't needed is not, again, an objective statement. We don't have specific neurons that everybody agrees aren't needed. Again, that has to do with that environmental stimuli, which is, like I'm not going to go into the details because I don't have the authority to speak on that. But there is an example about Romanian orphans and the consequences of neglect that I'm coming up on here. This process makes the brain more efficient. Again, your brain is for survival, not for thinking. But it also means that early experiences have lasting impact. And she uses the example of the Romanian orphans and the consequences of neglect. In the 1980s, Romanian orphanages had severe neglect. So their definition of care in these Romanian orphanages was the babies were fed, changed, and kept physically safe and sound. They were kept from harming themselves, etc. But they weren't held, spoken to, or emotionally engaged. MRI scans of these children, even years later, showed weaker connections in the brain regions responsible for social and emotional regulation. Some children never fully developed their normal emotional responses because their brains didn't receive it says right input, but I'm going to say a effective input for these sorts of emotional responses. Again,
I think that makes more sense.
Right and wrong is it breaks my heart, but there again, it wasn't effective input, but these children were cared for on a physical level. Okay? And this study followed and kind of illustrated the social and environmental experiences can actually physically shape how the brain works,
right,
as well as just kind of like in this nebulous sort of thing. And I think what's really interesting too is that some children never fully developed normal emotional responses, which indicates to me that some children did in spite of this. They probably had to work at it harder. They probably had to have some sort of external input that helped to influence the healing or the significant change. But it probably took time and effort. But again, some of them did develop normal emotional responses.
Well, it just reinforces the whole thought that what you are taught and how you are taught by your environment when you are young shapes and affects you as you become an adult. And here's an example that it comes to mind. Someone who, as an adult, says, well, I'm just not mechanically inclined. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
They probably didn't grow up with people who worked on cars or did carpentry or fixed their house or did things like that. They probably grew up with people that either had the money or the wherewithal to pay somebody else to do it. Right. So they never had to develop that skill. And now as an adult, they find it challenging to try and develop that because the pathways that were easy as a child are once again more difficult as an adult.
Well, and I think, bye, drive home safe. Okay, my producer's leaving. They'll be fine. They might bark a little. Just don't let them escape with you. The dogs would love to go home with you. Okay, so like even just saying I'm not mechanically inclined in a way is just solidifying the not mechanically inclinedness.
Yes.
So I would always encourage somebody to be like, well, okay, what feels natural to you? Are you creatively inclined then?
Mm-hmm.
Well, have you ever built a craft? What kind of tools did you use for that craft? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like you can unlock somebody's experiential blindness to that by showing them how something that they already do has mechanical aspects to it.
Yep.
You know,
I agree.
I tell people I'm not really good at like memorizing math. I have to do like this whole like spatial process in my brain to math things out.
Uh-huh.
And it's definitely like this long way around, and it meanders, and I have to use like like I literally have to like use like visual things inside of my brain and like group them. But it is mental math. It's just not memorized math, okay?
Right.
And it's not that I'm not good at it. It just takes me a really long time, and I can understand math concepts better than I can spit out a math fact to you.
Yeah.
But that's just different math.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't mean that I'm bad at math.
Exactly.
Just means I'm not a math robot. And guess what, teachers? I do have a calculator in my pocket at all times.
Right.
Take that fourth grade math teacher.
Every teacher from 1979 and before.
Take that fourth grade math teacher. Who got so mad at me for not memorizing my times tables. I remember like the 9s and like the 2s. You know.
I got a calculator on my watch. I got a calculator on my phone. I got a calculator on my tablet.
I can be like, hey, Google, can you do some math for me?
Exactly.
And now we've got ChatGPT where I'm like, okay, do this math. And then I'm like, okay, now explain to me how that works. I think I was trying to figure out if it was cheaper for me to go to this gas station that was a couple cents less than this other gas station, because this one gas station I got cash back, like a 5% cash back. Like I gave it like the story problem. And
oh my gosh.
I was able to figure out where the cheaper gas was, because like, you know, that's like comparing apples to oranges, and I'm like, okay, ChatGPT, here we go. I've got a math problem for you. And then I was like, now explain to me how. So take that, fourth grade math teacher, also geometry teacher, also early but algebra 2 teacher. I did really good with basic algebra, but after the basics I kind of lost track and interest, and then I dropped out in the 10th grade. So on we go. Our brain, so even though I'm a high school dropout, my brain is not a fixed pre-programmed computer. It does build itself based on experience, but also we have neuroplasticity, so we can actually kind of force ourselves into learning.
Well, that's what I'm trying to do in my own life right now.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actively, intentionally trying to put myself in positions where I have to learn new things I know nothing about.
Like neuroscience, which is what
like all this psychobabble stuff that we're talking about.
This is not psychobabble. Psychobabble is psychology.
I know that's a trigger for you. That's why I say it.
Neuroscience. This is neuroscience. They're totally different scientific fields.
It's a trigger for her. That's why I like to use it.
It gets me every time. I'm like, this is not psychology. All right. So what have you learned, Richard? That this is not psychology and
And Lisa Barrett's a pretty cool lady. I listened to quite a bit. I listened to the thing again all the way through, and I started listening to this second chapter. Well, I guess it's the second chapter. The first chapter after the half. It hurts my brain. Anyway, I encourage you guys. I really do encourage you to try and get into just listening to some of this stuff. You may find that there's more there than you think there is. There's rabbit holes to go down.
well, like I said, I was able to kind of view the process of grief within our brains through my own conjecture by making my way through this book. Because emotions, it turns out, is not something that you need to talk to your psychologist, talk to your therapist. Talking to people matters. Again, we'll just like touch back to the social interaction is important, but you can hire your social interaction. Okay. And emotions are not just something to speak of with a psychologist. There is science to it, and the science is that prediction. So rather than figuring out why you feel a certain way, if you reframe it as why is my brain predicting I'm going to feel this way? Why am I so triggered when he calls it psychobabble?
Yes.
It's because I have this negative view of psychobabble being something that's like dismissed, and like neuroscience is so much more stronger. So I like to make that clear distinction.
Right.
That's the thing, right? And so
there's nothing wrong with being right and reinforcing the fact that you're right.
My brain is predicting people will not take us seriously unless we're talking about the science as opposed to the psychology of it, right?
Right.
So,
and there's a point there. There is definitely a point there. And no, Robbie, we're not going to make dogs talk. That's still your fantasy, and that's just not going to happen.
My dogs talk to me all the time. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, they don't. It's not like they're speaking in English.
No, they speak. They
Mm-hmm.
they
Yes.
speak barky, barkity, bark, 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 bark.
Yep. Well, and they show us. They tell us different ways that they use body communication.
I was gonna say my dog likes to talk a lot with her eyes.
Mm-hmm.
This dog, my black dog, she literally will roll her eyes at me and stomp off.
Oh, that's funny.
Oh, you're so dumb. I'm going back to my little hidey hole. she does. I've never seen a dog roll her eyes so hard. Like I'll ask her something, she's like, "You're so dumb," and just like walk away. I'm like, "But I was asking you a serious question, puppy."
Fun stuff.
Yeah, right. Okay, so our brain doesn't. The key takeaway. Long overdue. The key takeaway from we're still in lesson 3. Little brains wire themselves to the world.
Yep.
The key takeaway is your brain doesn't come pre-wired. It wires itself based on the world that you experience. Every interaction, language, social connection shapes how your brain functions. And the best thing for a human is another human being, but the worst thing is for a human is another human being. And even though it wires itself to the world you experience, that is plastic. Neuroplasticity allows us to change. A lot of times, though, our experiences create these kind of unconscious functionings, because the more conscious our brain function is, the more energy it takes. And as we learned in lesson half lesson that we have, or maybe that was lesson 1. Anyways, we have a body budget that our brain is obligated to balance.
Yep.
And so we have these heuristics, we have these shortcuts that we take based on the way we were raised, the interactions we've had or didn't have. And our brain is required to make these shortcuts in order for us not to use too much of our body budget. I kind of added on to that key takeaway because I think it's important to kind of tag back to some of those previous things we talked about.
Agreed.
Babbling inspired me to Babbling Brook, home of the trout. Does he water? What's that all about? Robbie Sneakle. Seriously. And do penguins have knees? Home of the brook trout. Robbie, yes. I adore that ADHD moment because I have definitely gone from talking dogs to babbling brooks to trout.
Yes.
Over the course of listening to somebody. Usually if they're interesting enough, I'll back it up to see what I missed. Oh, you wrote a whole song just now. Nice. Maybe, Robbie, we could have you come up at the end and sing a song since, I don't know, we're already at an hour and we're just now getting to the lesson. I'm sorry. Richard, do you have like company over? Do we want to like put a pin in this and come back to lesson?
We can. I mean, I'm actually a guest at someone else's house, not the other way around.
Wooed.
I came over here to dog sit and hang out with my friends. And then, you know, I made fart food for everybody. So that's cool.
Fantastic. So now you're sitting in a room, closed room, all by yourself.
Yeah, well, I'm not all by myself. I'm here with Melted Copper and Robbie and Allie and you. And
well, fair. But we don't have to smell you.
Yeah, this is true. This is true. That hasn't started yet. I give that another 45 minutes before it gets critical mass.
Okay. Well, like I said, if we want, let's see, we've got, how much time do I, maybe.
But there's a lot of stuff to cover. I mean, it's not like, that's what I said. If we take longer than a month to do this.
I'm okay with that. And the next one is, I was just going to have you come up and do it live, Robbie. Do you want to just do it live? Because the next one is our brain, predicts, which we kind of touched on a little bit, almost everything you do. Yeah. And so like that is all about, we don't see the world as it is, we see it as our brains expect it to. Our brain runs science, they're like is like a scientist running experiments.
Mm-hmm.
Prediction shapes emotion, prediction shapes your reality. I mean, this is all upcoming and we haven't even, I mean, we've kind of touched on it a little bit because I think we've kind of, because that
I think that's probably a good idea, honestly, and then we can pick it up right at this point, quite literally next week.
Yep. Yeah. So I think this is a good place to kind of land. We are at 1 hour, 2 minutes. I am going to minimize that. I'm going to see how much time is left on that TED Talk clip. We might have that TED Talk clip play us out. Well, okay, so it still has 18 minutes. How about we'll play this until the next commercial break that YouTube throws in.
Okay.
And then
I'm
I'll
cool with
throw
that.
up our end title card, and we will come back next week and touch on lesson 4. I thought we were going to be able to get 2 lessons per show. I just don't think it's going to happen because I'm babbling.
Too much to talk about.
Brook trout with bowling ball and a pin, according to Robbie. I'm glad I could inspire you to write a song, Robbie. I'm going to take credit for that. All right. I don't know if I get credit for that, but I'm going to take credit for that.
Take it. Own it.
All right. I'm going to add Lisa Feldman Barrett. You aren't at the mercy of your emotions, which if you guys want to see the whole TED Talk, there is a link in the description. Please go check
along with all the other ones.
If you have not gotten your hands on this book yet, again, the book is excellent. If you can't afford it, don't have audible tendency, whatever the deal is, watch it for free. Watch it for free on YouTube. There's a whole bunch of links, long ones, short ones, some as big as your head. All of them about your brain inside your head. Okay, I'm going to leave that at that. I can't get any better than that. It doesn't get any better than that. Here we go.
The way that we see emotions in others are deeply rooted in predictions, right? So to us, it feels like we just look at someone's face and we just read the emotion that's there in their facial expressions the way that we would read words on a page. But actually, under the hood, your brain is predicting. It's using past experience based on similar situations to try to make meaning. This time, you're not making meaning of blobs, you're making meaning of facial movements, like the curl of a lip or the raise of an eyebrow. And that stone-faced stare, well, that might be someone who is a remorseless killer. But a stone-faced stare might also mean that someone is stoically accepting defeat, which is in fact what Chechen culture prescribes for someone in Dzhokhar Tsarnaev's situation. So the lesson here is that emotions that you seem to detect in other people actually come in part from what's inside your own head. And this is true in the courtroom, but it's also true in the classroom, in the bedroom, and in the boardroom. And so here's my concern. Tech companies, which shall remain nameless, well, maybe not, Google, Facebook, are spending millions of research dollars to build emotion detection systems. And they are fundamentally asking the wrong question because they're trying to detect emotions in the face and the body. But emotions aren't in your face and body. Physical movements have no intrinsic emotional meaning. We have to make them meaningful. A human or something else has to connect them to the context, and that makes them meaningful. That's how we know that, a smile might mean sadness, and a cry might mean happiness, and a stoic, still face might mean that you are angrily plotting the demise of your enemy. Now, if I haven't already, gone out on a limb, I'll just edge out on that limb a little further and tell you that the way that you experience your own emotion is exactly the same process. Your brain is basically making predictions, guesses, that it's constructing in the moment with billions of neurons working together. Now, your brain does come pre-wired to make some feelings. Right? Simple feelings that come from the physiology of your body. So when you're born, you can...
I know I said I was going to let it play out to the next commercial, but I have to make this distinction between feelings and emotions. It has been extremely useful to me in my life. If you notice feelings in your body versus the emotions that you have. And then also I wanted to comment, because I couldn't help myself, on Robbie's comment here. I'll pop it up on the screen. Robbie says you actually have to interact with people to have this happen. There are people who have a sort of affect that can be misunderstood by other humans because other humans think that they can read your facial expressions and assume they know what you are feeling or what emotions you have. And that, Robbie, I'm sure you have learned throughout your life, is not true. And sometimes the easiest way to manage that is to control the interactions with people that you have, i.e., you are having interactions with me and Richard right now in the chat all by yourself. But you have control of it. You have these laughing emojis, you have the smiley face emojis, you have your beaver emoji. You have these ways of communicating things to us that doesn't rely solely on facial expressions. And I have been accused of smiling when I was talking about my dad's death or remembering things while I was upset and crying about it. And it was pointed out to me that I was confusing the person that I was talking to because my facial expressions didn't match the emotion that she thought I should have. And so I pointed out to her that there are nuances to emotions. The one I was experiencing was bittersweet, which is why I was smiling and also crying. I was sad, but also kind of reveling in the memory of. And I'm a naturally curious person. So as I was experiencing this kind of tumbleweed of emotions, I was also curious as to why I was experiencing it. I'm sure that showed up on my face too. All these things, and she expressed to me that she couldn't read it, so I had to jump in and comment on that. Richard, are you still here?
Oh yeah, I'm still here.
Anyway, so any thoughts on that before I hit play again?
Nope.
He's like, just get on with it. We're
Yeah,
already over an hour.
I really don't have anything to say about it.
Okay. Yeah, very little controlled or selective interaction. Yes, the power of the hermit. I have to agree with you on this a little bit, Robbie. I do. Um, Once I let go of the projection of people putting on me that I was a social butterfly and that I was a natural born leader and all these things that felt really uncomfortable to me, and I just kind of leaned into my hermiting, I I feel much more grounded and solid, and life has been a lot happier for me. So I agree with the power of the hermit. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
the power of the hermit. Okay, moving on. Again, we'll hit play again.
Mm-hmm.
And make feelings like calmness and agitation, excitement, comfort, discomfort. But these simple feelings are not emotions. They're actually with you every waking moment of your life. They are simple summaries of what's going on inside your body, kind of like a barometer. But they have very little detail, and you need that detail to know what to do next. What do you do about these feelings? And so, how does your brain give you that detail? Well, that's what predictions are. Predictions link the sensations in your body that give you these simple feelings with what's going on around you in the world so that you know what to do. And sometimes sometimes those constructions are emotions. So, for example, if you were to walk into a bakery, your brain might predict that you will encounter the delicious aroma of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. I know my brain would predict the delicious aroma of freshly baked chocolate chip cookies, and our brains might cause our stomachs to churn a little bit to prepare for eating those cookies. And if we are correct, if in fact some cookies have just come out of the oven, then our brains will have constructed hunger, and we are prepared to munch down those cookies and digest them in a very efficient way, meaning that we can eat a lot of them, which would be a really good thing. You guys aren't not laughing enough. I'm totally serious. These are really... But here's the thing. That churning stomach, if it occurs in a different situation, it can have a completely different meaning. So if your brain were to predict a churning stomach in, say, a hospital room while you're waiting for test results, then your brain will be constructing dread or worry or anxiety. And it might cause you to maybe wring your hands or take a deep breath or even cry. Right? Same physical sensations, same churning stomach, different experience. And so the lesson here is that emotions which seem to happen to you are actually made by you.
There it is. You're still muted, Keri.
I said, perfect segue. We will not advertise for Apple credit lines anymore. All right, Richard. Same time next week.
Yeah, I'll try not to forget and be on time.
I'll try to be a better co-host like Chad Fridman and send you an email ahead of time as opposed to like 25 minutes.
Well,
before.
yeah,
I'm
but
like,
it's,
oh, bro,
you know,
what
let's not
doing?"
rush in. Let's not rush into this adulting thing too quickly.
I'm not going to make any promises. Nobody's. Chad has April. I forget like what we're doing tomorrow's show because like we've already been talking about April shows, and I'm always
Right.
like, what are we doing again? Like today.
Uh-huh.
What are we doing like today? But anyways, if you want to see more and a different side of me, I'll be there Tuesday. Sometimes Velcro pops by, like when we have open mic night, etc. You'll probably maybe be in the chat and also several other chats at the same time, Velcro.
That's
But
typically me.
next week, we're going to talk about how our brain predicts things, how we create our own reality, which I think is just amazing and has
That's
like,
fascinating stuff.
far-reaching sort of implications. I'll share some of my thoughts on that. Richard will share some of his.
I will. I already have thoughts about it
Oh.
that I'm not going to share till next week, so I have them saved.
Yes. Well, Robbie, I'm sorry you're feeling haters from there. It's not coming from this girl here. Because I fully value what you have to add. But you know, it's a different vibe, and it is what it is. And sometimes I feel haters there, but
Yep.
but yet I show up sometimes out of spite.
It's a vindictive streak.
Yeah, you know, I listen. It's all in good fun. It's a totally different vibe than what we've got going on here. I did go visit the beaver tree. I think you might not have been here when I was talking about visiting the beaver tree today, but they are now working on the enormous, like 2.5. I don't even know. Like I can't even fit my arms around the base of this
Wow,
tree,
that's a
this willow
huge tree.
But like they've started chewing all the way around. It's a willow tree, so it's got like small branches and bigger branches, and then it's got this huge base. And they've started working their way around the base, which is probably a diameter of like 3.5 feet.
That's huge. Wow, that's cool. What a neat thing to be watching, though.
I mean, it's like watching the circle of life. I'm like,
Yeah.
what are these beavers doing with this tree? And also like so cool, but kind of sad because I really like that beaver tree. But you know, it's just something I get to watch unfold as I go walk my dogs, as well as look for rocks and do all those other fun things. So we are at 1 hour and 15 minutes. Thank you, Richard, for showing up, even though you are a guest at a friend's
Oh,
house.
thanks for having me, even though I was late.
Hey, listen, you're fashionably late, and also we love your throbbing orb. So there's
Well,
that too.
you know, it's next week. It should be my throbbing face. So,
God, I hope it's not throbbing.
all right. Thank you, everybody in chat, for hanging with us. Get your questions ready for next week.
Says hello with
There
the
we
soft
go.
glow.
Our night
We
says hello
took
with
a
the
ride
soft
on
glow.
this talk show.
I love this song.
Stories shared and secrets low. Time to linger, but we gotta go. Voices faded with the moon's call. Laughter echoed down the hall. Thoughts that flew like paper dolls. Wrap it up and let it fall. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. In the quiet, hear the clock tick tock. Words won't stop, but we'll walk the walk. Dream a little till the next talk. Out of time, let's unlock. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. In the quiet, hear the clock tick tock. Words won't stop, but we'll walk the walk. Dream a little till the next talk. Out of time, let's unlock. Turn the volume down low, my friends. This chatter's come to an end. Till we gather again and again. Let these moments extend. With open minds, now we drift on the book of fine. Page by page until we bind sweet goodbyes. Let's unlock.